A new book full of powerful photos is capturing what life was like for gay Americans in the late 70s to mid-80s. Images come from the traditional gay havens like San Francisco's Castro district, New York's Christopher Street, and Provincetown, Massachusetts. The man who took these photos, Nicholas Blair, is on the couch with me this morning. Welcome to New Day.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm really excited to share this. Tell us how Castro to Christopher Street, how the project began.
Well, it was very interesting. I had an opportunity to wander around India and Europe photographing for about 9 months, and this was back in 1974. And when I got back to San Francisco, tragically, Harvey Milk and Mayor Moscone were murdered. This actually was not 74, this was 1978.
Right.
And this really awakened me to the political situation that was happening and the incredible persecution that was going on in the gay community at that time. And even though I'm not gay, I wanted to do what I could and started to go down to their rallies, and I always had my camera with me, and so I just started photographing, and I became very attracted to what was going on, and thought it was a very important social revolution that was going on at that time, and just began photographing on my own. And I also have family in New York City, so when I was back there, I went down to Christopher Street, another area, and was photographing there. And it wasn't until my brother, who was writing at the time, my brother Donovan, and he was writing for The Advocate, the national gay magazine, he looked at some of the images and he said, well, why don't you send some in to them and see if they're interested?
Let's take a look at some of these images that you've captured. I mean, beautiful images. It was an important time, and I love that you said, let's photograph these people standing up to the hate and showing the difference. What are some of these photographs of?
Well, this is just sort of a normal, I'd say more of an everyday situation. I find these are more difficult to photograph because when there's a lot going on, the content is much more content heavy, but this is just the local community interacting with the gay community, and you know, a woman doing her shopping, people hanging out here. There was a lot of observing and being observed going on in the gay community at that time. So this is tragically the first candlelight AIDS rally. I thought this person really depicted the horror of what was going on.
Yes. That's a powerful picture.
This is on the pier in off Christopher Street, which is now defunct, but it was an incredible place to catch the late afternoon light. People like to hang out there. This is just a moment on Castro Street, and this was what was so exciting about photographing there at that time. You didn't know what would be happening at any given time, and these guys were just walking down the street, and then all of a sudden, you know, there they were, and they you know, this is a little different. They turned to the camera to get photographed.
Is all the photography in black and white in this book?
Yes, it is.
It's amazing because even though I didn't even notice it wasn't in color, because the vibe, the feeling you get from these pictures is very vibrant. Was there a reason you decided that, did you shoot in black and white, or did you say, I want this only to be in that medium?
Well, at that time, black and white was something that you could do yourself. I did all my own developing and printing and darkroom work. And also it has much more latitude as a film to allow you to photograph in different kind of lighting situations. So compared to what is being done now digitally, it's much more forgiving. But back then, color was harder to work with. Now, I did use color sometimes, but we decided to just go with black and white for this book.
It seems like this book is both social history and a fine art photography book. How did you start putting this together? I understand, I mean, it's taken you 40 plus years to take all the pictures. How did the process begin when putting it together?
Well, about 5 years ago, I started going through my archives because I was no longer doing any darkroom work, and I wanted to, you know, do some scanning. And I looked at this portfolio, and I thought it was particularly important historically, and also considering the political climate today.
Yeah.
And so I showed him to a very good friend of mine. Gary Halpern was the publisher of Photo Media here in Seattle for many years, and he thought it was a great idea and was very encouraging and helped me for the last 4 years to go and edit the work. And I also would like to mention another friend, John Glenn, not the astronaut, who worked on it, was an editorial consultant as well. So between the three of us, it was very hard actually to put the book together because I am interested in nonverbal communication with photography. However, I did feel that in this case I needed to contextualize it. So Jim Farber, who is a great music critic and writer, was able to write the introduction, and he lived through this era personally, and so he was able to contextualize the photographs for me.
That's great. Why is it, you mentioned the political climate now, why is it important that we learn from this time in American history? You mentioned Harvey Milk, some of the horrible things that happened, the violence, the hatred.
Well, it's just really important to be in touch with our history, and I think that this is not Stonewall. It was a little bit afterward, but I think as we go forward in the decades to come, that this is going to prove to be a very pivotal part of American history. And if it wasn't for the horrible AIDS crisis, I think it would have blossomed a lot sooner. Now, of course, we're getting a lot of pushback from some parts of the political spectrum, which is very unfortunate, and I think is very important to make people aware of what happened and keep a focus on that.
Thank you so much for sharing with us your book, your talent. We really appreciate it. And just a reminder, Nicholas is holding a book event tonight, Monday, October 2nd at 7 p.m. at the Elliott Bay Book Company on Seattle's Capitol Hill.